Hello students, and welcome to the video lesson on ethical behavior in the workplace. Ethical behavior is deciding what to do and what not to do in certain situations based upon values and how a person feels is right or wrong, how to handle certain situations. Let's dive into it. Alright, so the objectives for the lesson. We're going to explain the importance of ethics in the workplace. We're going to identify a few ethical principles and ways to apply them in a work setting. And then we're going to describe a few strategies for handling unethical practices if you're to see them in the workplace. So what are ethics? We've discussed ethics in previous video lessons, and they're just principles of conduct or your behavior that govern a group or society. Personal codes of ethics and personal values, they set the tone for decisions regarding right and wrong, leading to action at work. Remember, ethics are learned. What we view is right or wrong will all be depending on how we learn, what our values are, our environment, all right, and the people we surround ourselves with. Okay? Now remember, every person, employees and employers, will serve as role models for ethical behavior. Same goes for the family. All right? Where we learn our ethics, typically first and foremost our family, and then the people we surround ourselves with. Okay? And how we act in a workplace, both employees and employers, will set the tone for how other ethical behavior is handled within the workplace. Now, remember, ethics are valuable to the workplace to ensure that employees behave appropriately toward each other and the work environment. And ultimately, dishonesty is the root of most ethics problems in the workplace. Any problem will always come down to some sort of untruth or dishonest act. All right, so let's talk about ethical behavior some more. Remember, behavior is often copied from a role model. Good role models lead to good behavior. Bad role models lead to bad behavior. As I mentioned in the previous slide, parents are often our first role models. And then we learn from friends and family members. And then we also learn from teachers, counselors, coaches. Then we learn from peers and society. But we can also learn from other role models such as professional athletes, actresses, movie stars, famous YouTubers. Okay? All their actions will set the tone for what is acceptable or unacceptable behavior. And if we see someone that we admire commit an act or commit a behavior, we may think that might be appropriate, whether we think it's not. Okay? So, in the workplace, what are some unethical behaviors that you can see? Well, first and foremost, lying, okay, not telling the truth. Second, very related to lying, is withholding needed information. Having a piece of information that could be helpful in problem solving and not saying it. Abusive or intimidating behavior toward employees. This is acting in a way to bully or get your way that makes people that you work with fearful. Misreporting actual time or hours worked. Right? Misusing your time card, making sure that you get paid or get money when you really haven't earned it. Discrimination, and this can be on the basis of race, sex, gender, disability. There's a variety of ways you can discriminate against people. And then misuse of internet or email privileges, using work technology for personal benefit without approval. All right, let's talk about honesty and work hours. The most common way to demonstrate honesty is with your work hours. You need to report your correct hours, use your work hours productively, and not to misuse your flex hours or sick time. Some people will show up a little bit late, but then put on their time card that they were there the whole time. Some people may show up to work and not work to their 100% capabilities to get the job done. Others that have the opportunity of flex time and can pick and choose their hours may say they worked when they really didn't. And very common, people will call out sick when they're not sick and use their sick time to continue to get paid even though they're taking it for a day off and they're not actually sick. Remember, trust can be lost when work hours are misappropriated. Okay? And on top of earning yourself mistrust from superiors and other employees, misuse of work time and falsification of work hours can lead to termination. And you can also lose your benefits, pension plan, sick time, vacation time, right? And any other benefits such as health insurance that are associated with your job. Money and honesty. Now, next to falsifying your work hours, money is the next thing that most employees will get in trouble with. Okay? Stealing or misusing work-related funds is a dishonest act. Dishonesty and dishonest acts, such as stealing or lying, can become a habit if done repeatedly. And remember, completing a dishonest act may become easier once another is completed. It develops a sense of false confidence, and that can be developed, which means it becomes a habit and it constantly goes down to where you actually believe that you're doing the right thing, even though you're committing a dishonest act that's hurtful to yourself, employees, employers, and the company itself. Now, one of the big things about ethics is respect. And one of the things you need to respect is an employer's property. Okay? Carelessness or misuse of company property can lead to a diminished reputation or job termination. Now, what are some examples? Well, illegally copying company software, Microsoft Word, Google Apps, or any other programs that are used to complete your job that you use for personal use. Taking office supplies for home use, especially if you're not in a capacity where you have flex hours or you work from home. Using company property, especially technology, for personal use without permission. Now, there are some instances where you have a company computer or company phone, and they will allow you to use it for personal use, as long as that personal use is not inappropriate. What people don't realize, especially employees, young employees, or new employees, is that the cost of these actions of misuse of property, it adds up for employers. And it really can affect the company culture and budget balance sheets. So being honest about your use of employee property, okay, will go a long way in proving that you're a trustworthy worker. Confidentiality. What is that? Well, employees will always encounter and learn information that can harm a company if the information is shared with others or competitors. Okay? Majority of companies, when you get hired through HR, human resources, will have a confidentiality clause in their employee code of conduct. Okay? What is confidentiality? It's just the act of being discreet and not discussing company business with other people. When you have information that can be hurtful or harmful, or frankly is no one else's business, it is up to you to keep that information secret and to not share it. Remember, friends, family, coworkers, and employers could and should expect confidentiality from a person. No person or company wants their secrets shared with others. Treat the situation how you would want to be treated. Would you want your secrets, or do you want information that could damn you or hurt you, be shared? That is how you build trust, by not sharing that information. Now, here's a hot topic: treating people fairly. Okay? There are so many different people out in the world that you're going to encounter people that have different views, all right, or an abundance of differences than you. And how we interact with those people will go a long way in the workplace. Every company will include people of various genders and different backgrounds and cultures. Employees will interact with customers, owners, and coworkers, all of which will have different backgrounds. It is important to note that every person an employee meets should be treated fairly, openly, and honestly, regardless of their views or differences. Now, if you do treat someone differently because of their views or their differences, this could be qualified as prejudice or a negative attitude towards a person or a group. It is an ethical issue that can affect the treatment of people within a work environment. Now, examples of prejudice include racist or sexist comments, stereotyping, name-calling, and generalizations that can be hurtful, offensive, and just plain old unacceptable. Employees can and will be terminated for such behaviors, and employers can be pursued legally if they do not take action against anybody that treats people unfairly or violates discrimination laws. Be aware, again, as mentioned earlier, about misappropriating your times or your funds. Okay? Dealing with prejudice or discrimination can also be grounds for firing and loss of benefits. Now, how do we handle unethical behaviors? Well, you will encounter unethical behavior in the workplace. You will. It happens. It happens every day, and you will see it, and how you handle it will affect company culture. So understanding how to handle each situation is critical in customer care, company culture, as I just mentioned, and your own personal safety. Now remember, when you're dealing with customers, abusive or dishonest customers can be refused a service. If they don't want to be respectful, you do not have to serve them. You do not have to sell to them. You do not have to deal with them. Now, if you're having an unethical coworker, discussions about their behavior and your personal tolerances are to be had. And if it is going to hurt the company, it is your responsibility to mention it to a superior so that they can handle it appropriately with that employee. Now, if the employer who hired you, the company or boss, is acting unethically, there are multiple ways to handle the situation, including you could just leave it be if you don't think it bothers you that much. You could find other employment and work somewhere else. And again, just keep it quiet and no harm, no foul. It didn't bother you. Just going to remove yourself from the situation. Or you can report it to the proper authorities, especially if it's a legal or monetary issue or a discriminatory case that the courts can handle. Now, how do we take action against unethical employers? Well, first is you have to keep a written record. You have to have documentation that these actions were occurring. So you got to describe each incident, record the date and the time. Make sure you check your observations with others that are trustworthy. Others may explain or help you with the process. They can either explain a situation that you feel is wrong, but in actuality it was really right, or they can help explain a new process and how to go about the instance. Next, you can get advice from trustworthy people. Ask their opinion. Next, check your own personal motives. Are you acting for the right reasons? Do you think that the company is breaking the law? Okay. Are you just mad at your boss and then you're just going to find anything to hurt that person? Okay. So check your motives. Is it for the benefit of the company and a greater good of most people? Or are you looking just to get retribution against somebody else? Make sure you collect evidence, receipts, invoices, contracts to back up your claims, and then decide whether the complaint will remain anonymous or spoken openly. A lot of people now will not take on cases without someone putting their name to it. So anonymous cases often will get thrown out. And then, again, report only facts or observations, no exaggerations or speculations. Pure facts, pure data. Thank you for watching this video lesson on ethical behavior in the workforce. Now you may have a better understanding of what ethical behaviors are and how they can affect you within the workplace. How we act with customers, fellow employees, and our employers will set the tone for company culture and ultimately your personal career. Act appropriately, always do the right thing, and do your best. We'll see you next time.